It's 1859 and you have 10 months and 2 weeks to pack your bags, head out of Arkansas for good with your family. Leave your farm, leave it all. We're going to talk about some very difficult topics today and the ramifications of those topics and where can we find the evidence for that. It's coming up next on Ozarks History. It's not rainbows and butterflies, folks. It's down to nitty-gritty stuff on Ozarks History. Let's go. Hello, my Ozark friends. Vincent Anderson here with Ozarks History. Thank you for joining us today. We are so pleased. We're so happy that you've decided to sit down and enjoy some Ozarks history with us. And today, I said the word enjoy. It's something you may enjoy. Some of it's going to be difficult. We're going to tackle some issues here in the Ozarks. And we're just going to dive right into it. And it has to do with races, racial diversity, and how things actually panned out here in the Ozarks. And for those who are living in the Ozarks, and I'm talking about racial diversity, some of you may smirk or shake your head and go, well, I never saw a whole lot of racial diversity. When I was growing up, I did not see a whole lot of racial diversity in the Ozarks. Just flat out honest. If I wanted to see racial diversity, I needed to go to West Plains, Missouri, or Springfield, or we would head down to Little Rock. But up here in the Ozarks, it was pretty well closed off. It was white. Let's just be honest. It was pretty much white. Maybe have a little Hispanic, Native American, sure. But it was pretty much white here in the Ozarks. But we're going to talk about how those things kind of transpired and how it happened that way, why it ended up that way. And here I am as a white guy, and I'm going to talk about it. I have studied this. I studied this in grad school. I just took every course I could in African American history. And at first I'm thinking, why am I going down this path? But I truly enjoyed it, and I began to really understand why we are in the such situation that we are today. And so that's what I want to go ahead and dive into. I'm going to share my heart. I'm not here to offend anybody. I'm here to just sit down and share. I hope you're blessed by what we do. I'm going to take my time, take a deep breath. Oh, and I have Henry over here, and he's all excited about it too. And we're going to dive right into it. So in racial diversity, I want to talk about the Ozarks. Let's set up the Ozarks in the early 1800s. By 1808, we have the Cherokee, part of the Cherokee Nation, moving over across the Mississippi into the Ozarks, and mainly in northern Arkansas down to central Arkansas. So by 1808, that's what's going on. We have about 2,000 Cherokee moving in here. They ended up being called the Old Settlers. Sometimes they would be called the Old Settlers. They're going to be key in the future when the Indian Territory is opened up and we have the Trail of Tears. We're not going to get into the Trail of Tears today, but they're going to be influential in some of those aspects that took place here. The Trail of Tears takes part in the back of my house. It's about 500 yards in behind my house through the woods that heads through the Trail of Tears down to the White River. Go up the White River just a little bit, and we'll go across Mooney's Ferry or Talbert's Ferry. So I am just 500 yards from the Trail of Tears. It's not really accessible at the moment. It's through, some of it's through private land, some of it isn't. One of these times I think I'll just need to drive through Baxter County and Marion County and just show the Trail of Tears. But back to our point, we have the Cherokee here in this part of northern Arkansas also. So I want to set that up. But the problem is when they move in here, they end up into a pretty bad skirmish, vendettas against vendettas, threat against threat, because this is Osage hunting ground and territory. And so it's not going well because the Osage They're after the game here, and so we have some elk. We did have some buffalo. We have elk, a lot of white-tailed deer. We have turkey. So those are food sources and staples that you need living in this kind of a territory through here. It's not really conducive to growing a whole lot of corn, a whole lot of cotton in the Ozarks. It's just not that. Even though it's prairie, the prairie produced very well for game like buffalo and deer and elk and a lot of bear through here. And so that's what they were looking for. And so they were at war with each other, skirmish. We would have treaties up in St. Louis, Missouri, and they would get everything settled out. And you can find this in the territorial papers. The next day in the newspapers, you start reading on the next day or two, 50, they're attacking another 50. Like the Osage would attack the Cherokee. We'd have 50 guys die, and then they would just do retribution back and forth. So there's a lot of conflict and scuffles that's going on through here. Scuffles, it's more than a scuffle, skirmishes. So it wasn't a peaceful place. If you actually read Schoolcraft, when he came here through in November of 1818, he came here in November-ish, December, January, February, and he finally left out in February. He's actually looking for Osage because he's heard of the war, of the skirmishes that's going on. So he's trying to skirt around all of that through here. So we have that going on. Now for the other racial diversity we have here in the Ozarks, I'm going to start talking about the free black colony. We have a free black colony in northern Arkansas, and it's documented and told so well in this book. It's called Stranger and a Sojourner, Peter Collier and the Free Black Frontiersmen in Antebellum, Arkansas. This is by Dr. Billy Higgins. He's the professor down at Fort Smith, Arkansas, U of A. If you don't have this in your Ozark library, you need to get it. If you can't afford it, go to your library and say, hey, you need to order this for our library. This is going to give a lot of context. It's a great story, but the best part of the book, for me, it's the notes and the appendix. I mean, look at some of the stuff in the appendix. I want to know what's going on in Marion County in 1854. They have chock full of information of stuff in here. And that's appendix and notes. Here's your story. There's the appendix and notes. Salute. It's amazing what they have put into this book. So you need to get this book. So I'm gonna give you a thumbnail sketch really quick. So we have Peter Collier. We have the War of 1812. You remember the War of 1812? Well, in 1814, we took a little trip. That's for the War of 1812. And sometimes I've had students go, that's the War of 1814. No, it's the song. 1814, we took a little trip along with Colonel Jackson down the mighty Mississippi. We took a little bacon and we took a little beans and we fought the bloody British in the town of New Orleans, fired our guns. I'm not going to do the whole song. And the British kept coming. But that's from Jimmy Driftwood. He's an Ozark boy. He's from down in Mountain View, Arkansas. He wrote that. But that's the War of 1812. During the War of 1812, Peter Collier in 1812, he was 17 years old, and he joined the military. He was going to defend America. He didn't see any action. And so after 3 months, he's out of the military, and all of a sudden the British attack in 1812. They attack Washington, D.C., and things get burnt. And we have, Dolly Madison getting the China out. And all of a sudden we have Dolly Madison snack cakes. Every time you eat a Dolly Madison snack cake, you need to think of the War of 1812. Just saying. So all of a sudden he gets to see some action there around Washington, D.C. When he goes in the second time, his dad goes in with him. So we have two men that are free blacks. They originate from around South Carolina. I believe it's Marion County, South Carolina. They're up around Washington, D.C. They're in the 3rd Rifles Regiment up there, and they're defending and they're doing their stuff up there. When it's all said and done by 1814, Peter Collier would be 19 years old, and he has the opportunity to go west, young man, go west. And so he does go west, and the Ozarks is the west. Welcome to the West, my friend. We are in the Ozarks. This is heading west. He actually ends up in an expedition with Major Stephen Long. keelboat, and they're exploring, and they're doing the Arkansas River. They're heading out west, and so he has that opportunity to join that expedition. He ends up out there at Bell Point, which is Point Bell, which is Fort Smith, Arkansas. Fort Smith, Arkansas. So he's stationed at Fort Smith, Arkansas. Not only he, but also there are 5 guys of African American descent, and they are in Fort Smith, Arkansas. And so they're there all the way up to 1826-27 as soldiers. And they're going to get out, and they're going to get a chance for land. Oh, give me land, lots of beautiful land. Don't fence me in. And so that's what's actually taking place. So Peter Collier is going to get out. He's going to get land. He has the opportunity of them down there to get land in Bald Knob, Arkansas. It's not the place he wants to be. He has the opportunity to come up here on the northern part of Cherokee territory and settle. And so they're going to settle up here, right up here on the state line, just south of the state line, actually. So we have Oakland, Arkansas, Promised Land. Now I know where I'm going, a promised land, got it ready, Lord, for that sweet someday. And Promised Land, and then we head on down to a place called Amos, which doesn't exist anymore, but it's now Lakeview area. I have family buried in Amos, Arkansas. You slide down Lakeview Bull Shows, and then you come on down the White River, and they're having different sections of land all the way down to the north of Cotter, about 3 or 4 miles, at the Valley Fly-In Airport. That's the furthest south they are. So they stretch for about, as a crow flies, they stretch for about 14 miles up and down the White River. And there's about 130 free blacks settling in northern Arkansas. For that time period, we know that they are turning into prosperous, good citizens because we can check out the tax records. Thank you, Dr. Higgins, for the tax records in here. We can find out what's going on. So they're very prosperous. Things are moving right along. So as we go into the 1830s, 1840s, and 1850s, they are growing up and down the White River. So we have a group of free blacks in Marion County, Arkansas, because at that time, Marion County and Baxter County was all one county called Marion County. Baxter County didn't exist till 1873 after the war. So they're in Marion County, Arkansas. And things are just going pretty well peachy. All of a sudden, here's the thing. All of a sudden, we have some things going on because down in the state legislature, there is a bill that is actually circulating around, and it's called Act 151. It's the expulsion of free blacks in the state of Arkansas. So if you are a free black and you're in the state of Arkansas, you have till January 1st, 1860 to pack your bags and get the heck out of there. That's it. You're gone. I don't care how big of a farm you're doing, how much taxes you're paying, how well you're doing in the community. You are leaving. And if you don't leave, you're going to be sold into slavery for 1 year to pay for your export out of the state of Arkansas. From where they're living, it's only a mile from where a lot of them are living. It's just a mile across the state line. They're losing it. And so the act actually takes place and it's signed into law February 12th, 1859. So you have, if you're a free black, you have 10 months and 2 weeks to pack your bags, your family and everything. You're going to get everything out and you have to leave the state. Well, the state that's going to be the most convenient to go to would be actually Missouri. And so you're going to go across the Missouri state line. A lot of them went over to eastern Missouri towards Cape Girardeau area, and they settled into that area there. The thing about that, there was 130 free blacks in this area here. Now, they were of mixed race. Now, sometimes I didn't even want to claim to be African American. They would actually say, I'm not black. I'm not half black. I'm Portuguese. And so anyway, on the census records, you would have B for black, you would have W for white, and then you'd have M for mixed race. And that word, I'm just going to go ahead and use the word. I'm going to use the word. In the 1850-60 census, the slave census, or the regular census, the M would be for mulatto. I used it. I used the word. But that's what the government documents say, mulatto. Now, they are up in Oakland area. Now, Peter Collier is living up there, and a lot of others. The Turners, there's a Nesbitt up there. There's quite a few families. So we have 130 leaving. When the war is over, the Civil War is over, emancipation's for everybody else. No one really came back except for one family, and there was 15 people in that family, and they were in northern part of Arkansas near Oakland, but they didn't stay forever. They didn't. They finally left out. So that's what happened to that area. So you have Caldwell, you have Dave Hall up there. Dave Hall had a son. Now, there's a lot of Dave. There's some Davids mixed in there, and so you have to kind of parse everything out on the family genealogy. But there's a guy named Willoughby Hall, and so Willoughby Hall lived up there, and Willoughby Hall is written about, and there's stories about Willoughby Hall that Silas Turnbo talks about. And one story is not a really good story, but Willoughby Hall actually ended up being a spy for the Union Army. Willoughby Hall ended up being killed, shot and killed. It's not a pleasant story. I will put the link of the death of Willoughby Hall down at the bottom of this video. You can listen to it. You can go read it if you want to. It's not the most pleasant story, but we also have Willoughby Hall here. Now, during that time period, we have whites, we have free blacks, all the way up to 1860, and then we have the mixed race. So the free blacks are mixed race, most of them, but then in Marion County we also have mixed race in slavery. And I've gone through and I've done the statistics on it. So in Marion County there were, we have 130 free blacks, enslaved people that are enslaved. We have 261. I'm just going to do this 1859. So enslaved 261, free blacks 130, and white was 5,801. So that's what's actually going on, and I've got the graphic that I'll pop up here. So that's what's going on here in Marion County. So enslaved 4%, free black 2%, and then 94% white. Now, we're going to go ahead and look at Marion County now for 1859. This is before the Expulsion Act really took place. So we can go all the way up to 1859. There were 130 free black, and then 261 enslaved. So 33, 67%, that's the breakdown on the races there. Now, Marion County, Arkansas in 1860, I'm going to start taking a look at the enslaved that were here. I'm going to look at the men and the women, male, female. So what I'm going to do, let's do this. I'm going to look at the minors first and adults. 150 minors. I'm talking minors 18 years old. Yes, I do understand by 14, 15, 16 years old, people were going off getting married and having kids, but I just hit the 18-year-old minor. So 18 years old and below. So there are 150 minors in Marion County, 111 adults. Now this is the enslaved population for 261 residents in Marion County. The next thing I'm going to do is look at the enslaved, mixed race versus black. 25% were of mixed race descent. 75% were termed as black here in Marion County. Now this is an uncomfortable thing to say for some people and some families around here maybe, but let's just say this. How in the world is this mixed race taking place here? And if you're looking at the breakdown, some of these potential mothers are 14, 15, and 16 years old, and there'll be babies, just like one baby there, like 3.5 months old. So you know, we're going to look in. We don't know exactly, so I am not going to put my hand on the Bible and swear this, but we've got young girls having babies, and we have mulatto girls, we have mixed race girls having babies. We also have black girls having babies with mixed race. That's the only way that can actually happen. That's it. And they were living in family communities here. Now, the enslaved, male versus female, there were 118 male, 143 female, 55%, 45%. So there are more females in Marion County in slavery than males. More females. So that's how that breaks down. And here's the other thing that makes me wonder, and I'm still working on this. This is kind of cool. It just kind of blows my mind. So the 1860 census takes place. June 1st is when they're going through here in Marion County, 1860. They're supposed to have 261 slaves, and everyone's getting counted, but the thing is, they are counting those that are fugitives. Fugitives. So that means, yes, we have two people here that are enslaved, but we can't count them. They're not present. Okay, you go to the next house. Well, we have 4 people here that were mixed race, but they're not present. They're gone. They're gone. There are 62 fugitives that are not present, but are being counted, that are not present in Marion County, Arkansas, excuse me. There's 62 fugitives. These are all mixed race. 4%. It just blows my mind here. Where did they go? I have wondered this for 6 or 7 years. Where did they go? They had to go somewhere. We're on the northern part of Arkansas. You know where they went? I am tracing down some of those families now. They went to Springfield. They went to Springfield, Missouri. During that time of 1860, June 1st, they're not present. And then I'm starting to look through the newspapers, and I'm looking for certain names. And how am I doing it? I'm looking for those names that are currently in Marion County, around Yellville, around Mountain Home. I am looking for that last family name that they're probably using up in Missouri. And that's what we're finding. So 62 are fugitives. Now, what really blows my mind, some of these fugitives, oh my goodness, this is going to be a longer video than I thought. So, like this, right here, in Yellville, there's a James H. Berry. He has 2 slaves, a male and a female. The male is 12 years old. The female is 6 years old. They are mixed race. Okay? So he bought them or got them from someone, probably within the county, but they're fugitives. They are not present. We have a 12 and 6-year-old, 2 kids that are not present. That blows my mind. Lewis Hansford. Let's just talk about Lewis Hansford here a moment. He's 32 years old. He has 4 enslaved. 1 female that's black, and she is 26 years old. Then we have 3 mixed race. Age 13, a male. Age 9, a male. A 2-year-old female, fugitive, not present, not there. I'm guessing that 26-year-old lady is probably the mother to at least 1 or 2 of those little boys or girl. She's got to be at least a mother probably to that little 2-year-old girl. Where is that little girl at? I'm wondering this. I don't have the answer, folks. I wonder where that's going on. It just blows me away. Oh my goodness. I'm going to do a couple others. Mary A. Coker. She has 7 enslaved. Then the 16-year-old boy, a 10-year-old girl, a 6-year-old boy, and a 4-year-old boy. No, she just has 3 that are mixed race. The 16, the 10, and the 6. They're fugitives. Where'd they go? Where did they go? See, that's the problem here on the census. I'm looking through them going, you should say where they went to. I'm looking through records. Where did they go? And now, like I said, I am now tracing down some of these and these mixed race fugitives, and they went to Springfield. So hallelujah. We're going to find out. We're going to do some more investigation on that. So I've already showed you the book, Stranger and Sojourner. I want to give you some more context here for that. This is a book that you also need to have in your library, especially in the Ozarks. Missouri and Arkansas, you need to have this in your libraries. In your public libraries, you need to have this book. This is called The Seed of Sally Gooden, A Black Family of Arkansas, 1833 to 1953. Sets a lot of context. You'll start understanding mixed race in here also. Excellent little book. It's got some really good little notes in the back of it. It's not thick with notes, but the notes are good, so you can actually track out some of the things that Ruth Polk Patterson is talking about. You want to get some more context? I'm going to throw this one up right here. This is the History of the Ozarks, Volume 1, The Old Ozarks. This is by Dr. Brooks Blevins. If you want to learn context for the Ozarks, he wrote 3 volumes, and he takes you from the beginning of the Ozarks all the way up to present day. This right here is going to cover Peter Collier. It's going to be a thinner read on Peter Collier. It's going to be a great context because he weaves in other things with this the free black community. If you want to go in depth, you need to have both books from Dr. Billy Higgins and Dr. Brooks Blevins. Excellent book. I will have links for these books at the bottom of the video. Now, we have, set this here. Now we have that set in context. We have the expulsion, 1860, January 1st, they're gone. The free blacks are out of here. We have then the fugitives in Marion County. We have the fugitives that are gone, mixed race, they're gone. So the diversity is leaving, boom, 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 heading out of state. And so when you talk about this, you can do a really good smear on the South about slavery and how things are going on. Here's another part of the context. So I can start going through newspapers for some of the families that left, like the Tuts, that left, went to Springfield. When it's over, now this is going to just rattle your dentures. This is a good one. In the 1880s, we have the Tuts who are mixed race, once in slavery. They are coming down visiting their families down here in Yellville, Arkansas. They are actually checking on the Tut mother, not their mom, but the mother over that farm. They are going back and forth. So there's some familiar things going on through here. And so there's some contact going back and forth. I'm trying to figure out what in the world happened for those fugitives. So when we have all the fugitives, we even have a 3-month or an 8-month baby that's a fugitive that's gone and not present during the census. So I'm trying now to figure out, are the families from this area who once had those mixed race children up in Missouri, are they checking on them? Are there supplies going back and forth? I don't know. Just postulation here. I'm just trying to figure that out. It's just so interesting that that's actually going on. Now, we have smeared the South with slavery, okay? You can smear, that's fine. Slavery is not good. When you put somebody in bondage, made in the image of God, who has blood flowing through their bodies. Listen, the Bible says in Leviticus, the life of the flesh is in the blood. When God breathed into Adam, yes, I believe that. When God breathed into Adam, he became a living soul and his blood started flowing through his veins. We have the same blood. If I'm on the table and I need a blood transfusion, I am not going to say, well, what race is that coming from? I don't care, it's blood. We are all one blood. I don't care what melanin or I'm pretty well white. I'm kind of bleached out here. I don't care what the person's color is. We are made in the image of God. And when you start tearing apart somebody because of their melanin, their skin, their face, whatever kind of structure, their eyes, you are taking something that God created and you're diminishing it. You're breaking down what God created. We are all creation of God, and how dare you curse that? How dare you curse that? I don't care what economic situation they are in, what kind of financial situation they're in right there. The race, hair, lack of hair, long hair, short hair, beard, no beard. We are all made in the image of God. And so we need to just back up and realize what we're doing with our mouth and about race. We are all important in God's eyes. So we can smear the South here. Now I'm going to do something, and I'm going to do a little smearing on the North, and I'm going to point some fingers here. So was racism alive and well in Arkansas, in the Ozarks? Yes, absolutely. No doubt about it. Let's jump the state line. Let's just talk about Missouri for a moment. I grew up in Ozark County, pretty white, very white. During 1860, we had a slave census in Ozark County. Guess what? We had slaves in Ozark County. Some of those slaves were owned and in the household of Union soldiers. How about that? Union soldiers had slaves. So, not every Union soldier, but Southern Missouri, Union soldiers, there were people in Missouri that had slaves, okay? So the next thing I want to jump on into is that there were Union soldiers that were taking advantage of people in slavery during the Civil War. Yes, oh yes. And we're going to jump into that really quick. I want to mention a book right here. This book is called, some of you know where I'm going. This book is called Bloody Engagements. It's by, it's John R. Kelso's Civil War by John L. Kelso. He was a lieutenant and ended up being a captain. My goodness, he refused to cut his hair. Here's this picture. He refused to cut his hair until he killed at least 25 rebels or Confederates. Vicious guy as a soldier. I mean, he was brilliant and smart. I mean, he was every man's soldier in the Union up in Springfield. This is edited by Dr. Christopher Grasso. I will tell you what, this volume right here is another thing that you need to purchase. If you're in the Ozarks, you need to read this. He's a Union soldier, and man, he tells it if the Union are doing good things or bad things. He's just blunt, very blunt. Of all that bluntness, I'm going to read a couple excerpts from here, just for your enlightenment, enjoyment, and your education. So this is John L. Kelso. There was a skirmish that took place down here in Mountain Home, October 18th, 1862. 14 men lost their lives. They were not Union, they were Confederate soldiers. They are buried out in a field about 2 miles from me as a crow flies. Crows fly a lot around here, trust me. But here is this one on bloody engagements. Kelso is down here in Mountain Home, and there are 3 officers, Union officers. We have Major Wilbur. Oh my goodness. I don't like him at all. There's another one, Captain Flagg and Lieutenant Cross. out of all of them, Captain Flagg is living up in Ozark, Missouri. He does some things up in Springfield later on after the war. I'll tell you what, I don't like Captain Flagg, and I have to watch my heart, but I'm going to be honest with you. He got killed. He died. It took me 3 years to figure out where he was buried. And when I figured out that he did not have, at this moment, well, I haven't checked in a little while, he does not have a Union soldier tombstone, I was thrilled that he does not even have a Union soldier tombstone. I think he was a disgrace to the military. I'm former military. I mean, I went in the Air Force. I'm former military. He was a disgrace to the uniform. Absolute disgrace. And Kelso will even say so here. So I'm going to read some things about Captain Flagg. Oh my goodness. F-L-A-G-G. Now, if you're part of the Flagg family and you're here in the Ozarks, God bless you. I love you. It's just everybody's got some skeletons in their closet, and boy, is this a behemoth. And so I'm going to read this. This is from Captain Kelso's journal here. And here we go. Here's 1862. This is coming into Rapps Barren, which is today known as Mountain Home, Arkansas. And from one house, Wilbur and Flagg carried off a beautiful young married woman. She's a white lady. Carried her away from her babe only a few months old, and she cried and begged to be permitted to go back to her babe. I know who this lady is. I figured out who this lady is right here. As the price of her liberty, they required her virtue. They were going to rape this lady. She appealed to the men and the officers for protection against these brutes. She's appealing to him, and he's standing there. Her appeal was not in vain. He's pretty proud of this. The brutes were glad to release her. At one time, he just took his fist and put it right underneath Captain Flagg's nose and just threatened just to pop him in the nose and bloody his face. Oh my goodness. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to read another one down here. I know where this took place at also. About sunset, we went into a camp near a beautiful country mansion. This is in Mountain Home, where the proprietor of which, together with his wife, had only died a few months before. The mansion was now occupied by two beautiful, intelligent, refined young ladies, daughters of the late proprietor. On the preceding evenings, Flagg had claimed for himself the milk, the provisions, the beds of the houses which we stopped at. Being myself in advance this time, I was the first to enter this house. I did not, however, claim anything. In a moment, Flagg, here we go, this is Captain Flagg. Captain Flagg rushed in crying, "This is my room. This is my cook stove. These are my beds. All this milk is mine." He rushed from one room to the other, and I followed him everywhere to see what he would do, rather to see what he would not do. Oh my goodness. Greedy, 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 greedy. Now, here we go. I'm going to touch on something right here. Here's the next thing. They arrived at this other house. When they arrived at the door, I found a guard who said Major Wilbur, Captain Flagg, and Lieutenant Cross were inside. They were inside, and he had orders not to admit any others, but I said, "But the Major surely didn't mean to exclude me, one of the principal officers." "I suppose not," he said, and he let me pass, and I knew very well, however, that I was the very man above all others that the Major did mean to exclude. Having thus passed the guard, here it comes. We're still talking about mixed race here and racism. I found Lieutenant Cross in the hallway trying to persuade a handsome young colored woman to accompany him to Ozark. This is Ozark, Missouri. As it afterwards proved, he persuaded her. Wilbur and Flagg also each persuaded away a colored woman from this house. These women went ostensibly as cooks, but really as mistresses of these disgraceful officers. Oh my goodness, I could read more. I know the house. I know the family on this one. I'm going to go ahead and spill the beans on this. Let me get my piece of paper. I'm back. This is the Dodd. This is the Dodd mansion. And I know the girls that they took. They just didn't take 3. They took more. So how do I know this? Well, Mr. Dodd filed a complaint later that year in December down in Woodruff County, Arkansas, what happened up in his place. He went down to a justice of the peace and filled out an affidavit. And he filed this affidavit and he had a receipt. At the end of the war, they had claims to the Union. You could go to say, hey, during the war, I was a good Union citizen. They took so much, I need to be reimbursed. And sometimes they say, okay, out of all the people in Arkansas, I went through all the claims. I have never seen the most outrageous claims for money than anyone. I mean, there's a lot of 6,000, 5,000, you know, even a couple hundred. Dodd, he claimed over $12,000. Then he did an itemization of what he lost during that raid. And here we go. He lost a young man named Henderson, 19 years old, $1,500. Micajah, young man, 19 years old, $1,500. Then he lost, it says, a woman. Her name was Clara, 25 years old. He's claiming he needs to be reimbursed. This is after the war. He needs to be reimbursed $1,500 for her. Girl. Lisa, L-E-S-A, 16 years old. He wants $1,200. Rachel, 14 years old, $1,200. And then there's Molly, 14 years old. He had $1,200. He scribbled out and made it into $1,500. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. 6 people ended up leaving. And some of those girls that Kelso was talking about is this right here. That's it right here. So that's the context. So was there racism in the Ozarks? Yes. Was it just because of you were a Confederate family? No. It happened, and they were using these girls. And you know what I'm talking about, using these girls. They were using these girls. So wrong. So wrong. Now, here's the context of that's racism in the Ozarks. Now let's fast forward to 1947. The Corps of Engineers, they have this wonderful plan. They are going to dam up the White River, and we are going to have Bull Shoals Lake, Bull Shoals Dam. And as they get ready to build the dam, they go through and they start doing a survey of all the cemeteries that are going to be inundated with water. So one of the cemeteries that is listed on there, it's for the Free Black Cemetery. And I'm going to pop a picture up there and you'll see it. I have it circled in red, and it's right south of Howard Creek. Now, Howard Creek is just about a mile or so above the dam. It's not that far. I don't even know if it's a mile, but it's right up the river is Howard Creek. And that's where the Free Black Cemetery is at. Now, let's give the Corps of Engineers some grace here. To move a cemetery, you have to have a cemetery board. The cemetery board is familiar with every grave there. They go through there, they put in a wooden stake with a little aluminum tag on that, and that tag has a number. You write down who is buried by that wooden stake, and you put that on a piece of paper. The Corps of Engineers records that. They exhume all the bodies, they relocate to wherever the new cemetery is at, and then the next thing takes place. The cemetery board has to confirm, yes, we are satisfied with this. Now, there's no one familiar with the Free Black Cemetery, but here's the thing going on. That cemetery did not need to be removed. I thought 2 months ago, I thought I had it nailed. I thought I knew where the cemetery is at. It was a small island in the middle that pops up right by Howard Creek. I was wrong. I was off 300 yards, I believe. 300 yards, give or take a few yards. And so it's not there. It's because what really helped me is that Howard Creek, the mouth of Howard Creek, I know the cemetery was right south of Howard Creek, and so where the mouth is at. And so that's a really wide area there that's under the lake right there. And so that I went off and then I started studying and confirming. I had some people really help me out. Thank you, Dr. Alman, for access to the back of your place that I could take some pictures, and for helping me out. I've just had other people coming in. I've got people that are scuba diving. They're looking and helping me out, and I figured out I was wrong. And so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Hey, but I think I know where it's at. And so this is the preface that here in the next month or two, when the ticks and chiggers are down, we are going to walk out there to the Free Black Cemetery. We're going to have some fun, and we're going to do a video out there. And so we are going to blend that all together. And so, is it under the lake? No, it's not. Did they have to move it? Well, not really. And if we have two photographs from the Corps of Engineers from that time period, and how I missed it is there's a land, I'm looking at the land on the other side of the river and everything else. I was 300 yards off. And so I am so happy that cemetery has not been underwater or anything else like that. Just tickled and pleased that actually took place. And so, all right, so that's what we're doing right now. We are finding the context for that. Now, there are others that claim that cemetery, for that Free Black Cemetery, was moved to Promised Land Cemetery. And I'm going to tell you what, I've got family in Promised Land Cemetery. They're not in the Promised Land Cemetery. They were not moved. They were not moved. And so there's no finger pointing at the Corps of Engineers. Hey, listen, if somebody got buried underneath the lake, it's not the Corps of Engineers' fault. You know what? It's Mama and Papa's fault, or your great uncle or great aunt. Somebody did something and signed off and said, hey, you are good. And so what the Corps did, actually, whatever that cemetery looks like and the location of everyone buried there, they did their best to put them in the same proximity of the new cemetery. Not bad, is it? Not bad at all. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I want to appreciate for all those who are liking and subscribing to the videos. Ozarks History, we are still growing. You just bless me. Thank you so much. I appreciate spreading the word around, for sitting down and just listening to us and share our heart in Ozarks history. I will have a link of all the books down below. You can click on them, go to Amazon, and you can purchase the books. Get your libraries. If you cannot afford them, get your libraries to have those books. You need to have those books in your library. Go back to them. But honestly, get your own book. Get your own book. For example, I get my own book here. I take notes. And so I can write in my books and take notes. So in the future, I can go back like, oh yeah, I remember that. So get your own book if you can, take some notes, and just enjoy Ozarks history. And we will see you very soon. Bye-bye. Heavenly Father, I ask, Lord, for your wisdom and your clarity as we dive into this topic. I thank you, Lord, that you give me discernment on the exact words to say. And I thank you, Lord, I pray for all the friends that are gathered here. And I thank you, Lord, that you give us listening hearts, sensitive hearts, in the name of Jesus. Amen.